with Haute Moms Dinner Club. Today is Thanksgiving. We have a lot to give thanks for today. Thanksgiving 2020 with the Lancaster family. We're going to make a video for you today. We're just going to do it in a little bit different style just so that we're not interrupting our own family festivities. So here you go, Lancaster Thanksgiving. With the turkey ready, Mike got up at 6 o'clock to start the smoker and fire up the turkey. We had a 16-pound bird and we were shooting for a 5 o'clock dinner time. The general rule of thumb is 30 minutes per pound, plus you'll want to let it rest a little bit before you carve it. We were shooting for 165 degrees in the breast and 175 degrees in the leg. Mike used his signature rub on the exterior of the turkey, but the marinade he spiced up a little bit this time with some sriracha sauce. You could really taste it, especially in the injection sites, but it was a subtle sweet heat that was just perfect with the turkey. He used the same marinade to inject it and baste it, and after 4 hours of smoking, he started basting the turkey every hour. The whole procedure will be on the website, so be sure to check that out. During the last hour and a half, he applied the Texas crutch, and our lovely turkey was done at 4 o'clock. To start the green bean casserole, I'm going to take 3 bags of frozen green beans and get them in this large bowl and hope they start thawing a little bit while I work on the rest of the ingredients. If you have time, pre-thaw these and it will significantly cut down on your stovetop cooking time. At any rate, though, you'll need 3 bags of frozen cut green beans, 3 12-ounce bags. In my preheated skillet, I'm going to put in some olive oil. I'm going to start sauteing off some onion, 1/3 to 1/2 of diced white onion, depending on the size of the onion and how much you want in your dish. You'll want to season it up with some salt and pepper and some ground nutmeg. I love ground nutmeg in cream sauces and also with mushrooms. Nutmeg and mushrooms go very nicely together. So I'm going to get that seasoned up and saute those off for a bit. Meanwhile, I'm going to chop up a couple cloves of garlic and get our mushrooms ready to go. I bought my mushrooms pre-sliced. There was an 8-ounce package of pre-sliced mushrooms, so I'm just going to use those. So the garlic's just going to go in for a couple of minutes, and then we'll add in our mushrooms. You could quarter your mushrooms or slice them however you want to do it with the mushrooms, but it's 8 ounces of mushrooms going in there. You're going to want these mushrooms to start to soften up a bit, and then that's when we'll start making our roux. We're basically making a homemade cream of mushroom soup here. So we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to let that start to melt. You'll probably want to turn down the temperature on your skillet at this point in time before you add the flour so you don't burn the flour. Once your butter is fully melted, you're going to add in the 1/4 cup of flour. That's going to make the roux. Once the flour and the butter are completely incorporated and the flour has absorbed all the butter and starting to cook out, that's when you can deglaze with the can of chicken broth. So you're going to want to add in your chicken broth when those are fully incorporated. Now this will start to simmer and then it's going to start to thicken up. And you're just going to want to make sure that you have a nice smooth sauce at this point in time before you add in your 3/4 cup of cold milk. You can add everything in all at once, but when I'm making a soup or a sauce, I often like to fully incorporate one liquid in before I add the next one if you're thickening them up. That way you can assure that you have a nice smooth sauce or soup. So now you're going to want to adjust your seasonings And once that's fine, you can throw in your frozen green beans or thawed green beans. Now you'll need to cook these down for a bit because you want them to be fairly tender before you put them in the casserole to bake. That way, your topping isn't getting too burnt by the time your green beans are tender. So you need to have your green beans fairly tender before you put them in the casserole to bake. So your topping just gets nice and golden brown and your green beans are nice and tender. You're going to top the casserole dish with shredded cheddar cheese and the French fried onions. Before you put it in the casserole dish, make sure that you check the seasoning one more time because your green beans will have absorbed a lot of that seasoning. So you're going to want to make sure that it tastes fine. Then you're going to put it in your casserole and top it with the cheddar cheese and the French fried onions. As far as bake time goes, 25 minutes is probably what you're looking for. However, sometimes our ovens don't keep up with us on Thanksgiving, so it could take a little bit more time. But if you know that your green beans were close to being done when you put them in, basically all you're looking for is that cheese to have gotten melted and your fried onions to be nice and crispy on top. Just looking for that golden brown topping. So there is the green bean casserole, one of mine and my family's favorite holiday sides. Now we're going to start on the corn casserole. So you'll want to, in a small saucepan, melt 2 tablespoons of butter with 4 ounces of cream cheese. Now I just put it on nice and low and just kind of soften it up quite a bit. Now I'm going to add in my family size can of corn that I strained. That was a 29-ounce can, or you could do 2 of the smaller cans. But it's just the corn is drained. I'm going to mix it here with the cream cheese and butter mixture just to make sure I'm trying to get out most of those lumps in there before I add the rest of the ingredients in. Now I'm also going to add in a couple of tablespoons of flour at this point in time. That's just going to make sure that your casserole sets well, it's not too soupy for you, and you're going to want to, again, just kind of mix that together right now while you don't have so many ingredients in there, just to make sure that everything's getting incorporated into that very well. Next, we're going to add in a couple of cans of cream style corn. We aren't going to strain this. 2 cans of corn, 14.75 ounces on the cream style corn, 2 of those. 1 jar of pimento. This is going to be strained and chopped up. Going to add your pimento in. Then I've got some fresh chopped parsley here. I'm going to reserve some of that for the top of the casserole. I'm going to mix some of that in with the crackers that I'm going to put on the top. And inside you can put Ritz crackers or saltine crackers, whichever you prefer, or you can do a mix of both. Most of the time, we have both crackers on hand, so you're going to want to put a whole sleeve of saltines total, reserving a portion of that for the top. If you use the Ritz butter crackers, you'll probably want to put a full sleeve in the casserole and then a little bit more from another sleeve on the top. So we're going to toss in our 2 eggs, our cracker crumbs, and a little bit of salt and pepper. Just going to wait and make sure that you get this all mixed together well before you put it in the casserole. Then we're going to top it with the remaining crumbled up crackers and the fresh chopped parsley. And there is our lovely corn casserole, fresh out of the oven. Hi, Tiffany here with Haute Moms Dinner Club. Today I'm making a pumpkin cheesecake. A pumpkin cheesecake with ginger snap crust topped with maple whipped cream. So this is one of my favorite cheesecakes to make. I've actually made it on several occasions, but I haven't made it for a couple of years. So I'm super excited to serve it for this year's Thanksgiving dinner. Pumpkin cheesecake, ginger snap crust, and maple whipped cream. Now to get started on your cheesecake, you're gonna want to get your cream cheese softening. So this is 32 ounces of cream cheese, which is 4 packages, 4 8-ounce packages. I like to go ahead and pull it all out, get it out of the package and into the bowl to soften. To me, it comes out of the package and away from the foil very easily while it's chilled. If it softens in the package, to me, it seems a little harder to get out. So pull it out, get it in your bowl, a large bowl, so you can start mixing it. Then you'll want to get your oven preheated to 350 degrees. Now it's time to start on the cheesecake. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our crust. In a spring-form pan, you want to kind of lightly spray it. You've got a lot of butter in your crust, so it's probably really not going to stick. Just to err on the cautious side, you can just lightly spray that. Next, I've got my stick and a half of melted butter here. Now, if you're familiar with ginger snap cookies, you know that they've got a little bit of spice. They've got all that ginger in there. So to kind of cut the ginger snaps, I usually do a 50-50 mix of a cinnamon graham cracker and ginger snap. So in here I have a cup and a half of ginger snaps crumbled up and a cup and a half of the cinnamon graham crackers crumbled up. So that makes a total of 3 cups. Then I actually threw in just a touch more because I want to reserve some for the top of the crust, just to kind of decorate with whenever it's cool right before you serve it. So I'm just going to take a couple spoonfuls out just to decorate the top of the cheesecake right before we serve it, okay? So I've got my melted butter. I'm going to add in all the crumbs. And I also have my 2/3 cups of sugar here. I'm going to mix all that together and start making the crust. So now we've got our crust all pressed out here. This right here is one of the hardest parts of this cheesecake. It just takes a little bit of time. There's really no easy way to do it. It just takes time to get it pressed in there. You do want to press it down in there very firmly so it makes a nice crust for you. We're going to pop this in the oven for 10 minutes, pretty much while we mix the rest of our custard items here together to make the cheesecake filling. So we're going to get that in the oven and we're going to start with our filling. So now we're going to make our cheesecake filling. So I already started kind of working our cream cheese just to get a little bit lighter and fluffier. The next thing I'm going to do is going to add in my sugar, and I'm going to mix that well. I've got a mix of white and dark brown sugar here. I like to put the dark brown sugar in there, especially because we're doing the ginger snap crust and the maple whipped cream. It just gives it a little bit extra earthiness to go with the rest of those flavors. After that, I'm going to add in my eggs. I've got 3 eggs here. Always crack your eggs separate. That way you don't run the risk of getting shell into your cheesecake. If you get any shell in here, you can pick it out easier than if you get it in here and you can't find it or don't even notice it. So we got our eggs there. We got some heavy cream. We got some vanilla extract. We've got our pumpkin puree. And then we've got our pumpkin pie spice. All these measurements will be on the website, so you can check everything out on that. For the pumpkin pie spice, I actually made my own because I didn't have any pumpkin pie spice, but yet I had all the spices that go into making pumpkin pie spice. So I have here a teaspoon of cinnamon, 3/4 each teaspoon of ground ginger and ground nutmeg, and then a 1/4 teaspoon each of allspice and ground cloves. And that makes my pumpkin pie spice. If you have pumpkin pie spice, or if you don't have all of these, just buy pumpkin pie spice, and then you'll just need a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. But this is just basically a tablespoon of homemade pumpkin pie spice. So I'm going to mix up all of our ingredients here, get it in the cheesecake, and we'll get that cheesecake in the oven. And so our cheesecake crust pre-baked for about 10 minutes. Now we're going to add all of this into it. As you notice, I scraped my sides while I was doing that. That way I got all the pieces of cream cheese off the sides, and they got all in there incorporated very well, so everything is nice and smooth here. So basically I'm going to put it in here. I've got the oven still at 350 degrees. Now to bake your cheesecake, you can go to a lot of trouble with a water bath, etc. I like to keep mine very simple. I bake it for 1 hour at 350 degrees, then turn off the oven and just let it set in the oven for another hour. Go ahead and set your timer for both hours because you do not want to forget your cheesecake is in the oven. During the holidays, we can have a lot on our minds, and I haven't forgotten one yet, but I could easily see it happen. Also, because of all the butter that you're going to have in your crust, you should bake the cheesecake with a sheet pan underneath of it in case your butter leaks through your springform pan. Once it comes out of the oven, you can let it sit out to cool at room temperature, and then you'll want to refrigerate it overnight before topping it with your whipped cream. You'll just kind of want to do this at the very end. You're decorating so your ginger snaps don't get soggy, and also that your cheesecake is completely cooled so your whipped cream won't melt when you top it. So we'll go ahead and get our whipped cream made, and then we'll just top it and decorate it right before we serve it. This is going to be our maple whipped cream. This is just like a lot of the other whipped creams I've done on a lot of the other videos. Basic ratio of the 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, a pinch of salt in there. When this gets to soft peaks, we'll add in our 3/4 cup of sifted powdered sugar. This one we're going to flavor with the maple extract, okay? We've done vanilla extract, we've done lime flavored. This one is going to be maple flavored whipped cream. Just a couple teaspoons of the maple flavoring in this when it gets whipped. So we're going to go ahead and get this made. That way it's made. And then we'll decorate the pumpkin cheesecake right before we serve it. Now this maple whipped cream that I'm making here, this is delicious on just straight pumpkin pie, straight pecan pie, even like pancakes or French toast. So remember this one, maple whipped cream, it is delicious. The cheesecake chilled overnight. We did a ring of rosettes with the maple whipped cream around the edge. Then we placed the ginger snap cookies snugly in the whipped cream with a sprinkle of some of the extra crumbs around the top. A fall holiday masterpiece right here. So there is our Thanksgiving spread. There's so much delicious food to choose from on Thanksgiving. It's hard to come up with the menu. But of course you have to have stuffing and your mashed potatoes and gravy, some raw vegetables to crunch on before dinner, and of course the deviled eggs. There's the green bean casserole and the corn casserole that we made, and then the lovely turkey. Now, in lieu of cranberry sauce, I made some holiday jam that you can double for cranberry sauce and also to put on your dinner rolls. So there's the dinner rolls and the holiday jam, and then of course the pumpkin cheesecake. So this was a delicious feast for us, and of course we had plenty of leftovers.
Happy Thanksgiving from the Lancasters!
Let's eat! Let's eat!